All right, so we're all about diving deep into fascinating topics. And I have to say, the stuff you sent over this time is truly top-notch, especially that article about all the slang words English has for being drunk.
Yeah,
Over 3,000 terms. Can you believe that?
it is pretty amazing.
It really makes you wonder why we have so many ways to say I've had a few too many.
Right.
It's like this endless well of creativity when it comes to describing being drunk.
Absolutely.
So that's exactly what we're going to be exploring today on this deep dive into all things tipsy.
I'm excited.
Me too. And it's not just about learning a bunch of new slang words.
No, no, no.
It's about understanding what this linguistic phenomenon tells us about ourselves, about our culture, and even our history.
You got it.
By the end of this, you'll be able to decipher the subtle differences between these words, why hammered might get a laugh at a party, but intoxicated sounds like something out of a police report.
Exactly.
We're going to help you navigate this whole lexicon of inebriation.
Yeah.
We'll figure out which terms are perfect for a night out with friends, which ones should be reserved for sharing hilarious stories, and which ones you should probably avoid using altogether,
Especially in certain situations, right?
especially around your boss. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But first things first, let's tackle the big question. Why are there so many different ways to say someone's had one too many?
Well, the research you sent over points to a few really interesting and interconnected factors. History definitely plays a huge role.
Okay.
For centuries, public drunkenness was seen as something taboo,
Hmm.
something to be ashamed of.
Interesting.
So people needed to come up with ways to talk about it without being too direct or sounding too crude.
Like a code.
Exactly. A linguistic dance around a sensitive subject.
That makes sense.
And, there's that great example in one of the articles, feeling merry.
Yeah.
It's such a polite, almost festive way to imply that someone might be a bit tipsy.
Without coming right out and saying it.
Exactly. It's like a secret handshake.
I love that a secret handshake for the slightly inebriated.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
So we have history playing a part, but the articles also suggest that social class might have shaped this vocabulary too.
Yeah, that's an intriguing angle.
Right, like different social groups might have developed their own distinct terms almost as a way of signaling their status or shared experiences.
It's like language is a social marker.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder if those distinctions still exist today in a more subtle way.
Inebriated still sounds very formal, very upper class
It does, doesn't it?
compared to something like sloshed or wasted.
Right. It's like these words carry a certain social baggage with them.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about geography.
Oh, yeah. Regional differences are huge in this area.
The articles are full of fantastic examples of how the go-to words for being drunk can change dramatically, depending on where you are in the English-speaking world.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it can lead to some hilarious misunderstandings, too.
Oh, absolutely. Like, imagine an American hearing a Brit say, "I'm pissed."
Yeah, they'd probably think they were angry about something. Exactly. But in the UK, it just means you've had a few.
Right, it's all about context.
And then there's trolleyed.
Oh, yeah, that one's great.
I mean, you can practically see someone wobbling around like a runaway shopping cart.
That's a perfect image.
And the Australian slang is on another level altogether.
Whoa, tell me about it.
Maggoted like a worm. It's so visceral.
I know, right? You get a real sense of the level of inebriation just from that one word.
It paints a vivid picture.
And then in the U.S., we have this constant evolution of slang, often tied to specific generations.
It's true.
Like turnt. That
There
feels
is-
so Gen Z.
Yeah, you don't hear older folks saying that.
Not really, but they might have used crunk back in the early 2000s.
Oh, yes, the crunk era.
And then, of course, there's the classic sloshed, which now feels almost old-fashioned.
Yeah, like something your grandpa would say.
And then there's that phrase that always sparks debate, white girl wasted.
Yeah, that one's loaded.
It really highlights how nuanced and culturally specific these terms can be.
And how language reflects our social anxieties and even stereotypes. It's true, language is like a mirror reflecting back at us.
And it's not a new phenomenon either.
No way.
One of the articles pointed out that Shakespeare himself used terms like cup shot, basically meaning drunk from too many cups.
Wow, so this fascination with describing drunkenness goes way back.
To the bard himself.
Humans have been finding creative ways to talk about being drunk for centuries.
It's part of our shared human experience.
It really is. But what's interesting is that these different terms don't just describe the fact of being drunk. They often give you a sense of the degree of drunkenness, too.
Yeah, That's a really important point.
It's not just a simple on-off switch, it's a spectrum.
And we have this incredible vocabulary to express all those different levels.
Right, and one of the articles laid out a really helpful intoxication spectrum.
I like that.
Me too. It's a great way to break it down.
So let's start at level 1, lightweight, tipsy or buzzed.
Yeah, the pleasantly warm but still coherent stage.
That's the level where you can still function in most social situations.
Like that example they gave using it at a work happy hour.
I'm just a little tipsy.
Perfect.
It acknowledges you've had a drink or two, but you're still in control.
And then we move up to level 2, socially drunk.
This is where things start to get a bit more lively.
We're talking merry lit, feeling it.
The laughter gets a bit louder, the dancing a bit more spontaneous.
That's when you might say, she's getting lit tonight.
Exactly. It implies a good time,
Mm.
but not necessarily out of control.
Okay. But things definitely escalate at level 3.
Oh yeah, this is the danger zone.
This is where wasted, hammered, and sloshed come into play.
The point of no return.
Right, stumbling, slurring speech, and regret usually follows.
It's the territory of hilarious stories told the next day.
Dude, you were so hammered last night.
Classic.
Definitely not a state you want to be in at the start of the evening.
No, but it makes for good stories later.
Okay. And then we reach level 4, nuclear,
This is the blackout zone.
where shit-faced and maggoted reign supreme.
And the key phrase is, I don't remember anything.
This is definitely not for polite company.
Unless you're sharing a truly epic tale of drunken misadventure.
And even then, maybe wait a few years.
Yeah, give it some time to mature like a fine wine.
And the article had a great tip for when you're unsure of someone's level of intoxication feeling good.
Ah, yes, the ultimate ambiguous phrase.
It covers a wide range of experiences without being too specific.
It's like the Switzerland of drunk vocabulary.
Neutral and inoffensive.
Precisely. And as we've been discussing, regional and generational differences have a massive impact on how these words are understood and used.
Yeah, let's dive back into those a bit.
Okay.
The British pissed, meaning drunk, is a prime example of how language can really trip people up.
It's a linguistic minefield out there.
It is, and trolley just conjures up such a perfect image.
You can't help but picture someone swerving all over the place.
And Australia with maggoted, munted, and off chops.
They've got their own unique flavor.
It's like each English-speaking country has its own dialect of drunkenness.
A whole boozy lexicon.
And then you have the generational differences, too. Like, older folks might still use 3 sheets to the wind.
Ah, classic nautical term.
Makes you picture a ship with its sails all over the place.
Out of control?
And then you have the younger generations coining new terms like yeeted.
As in, I yeeted myself into oblivion.
I love that.
Language is constantly evolving.
It is, and one of the articles had this great anecdote from a listener who told an American friend they were pissed,
Oh, I remember that one.
and the friend thought they were angry.
Classic misunderstanding.
It just shows how important context and shared understanding are when using these terms.
You got to know your audience.
Absolutely. So let's get practical for a moment. When and how should people actually use this colorful vocabulary in their own lives?
Right, good question.
The articles had some pretty clear guidelines on this.
Yeah, proceed with caution is the main takeaway.
Right, these are informal terms best used in casual settings.
With your friends telling funny stories, that kind of thing.
Like saying, we got wasted last weekend to your buddies, it's probably fine.
Yeah, no one's going to bat an eyelid.
And recounting those hilarious drunken escapades.
I was so hammered I tried to order pizza from a parking meter.
Exactly, those stories are gold. And of course, these terms pop up all the time in pop culture and memes.
But one of the articles made a good point about the distinction between being drunk and just acting wild.
Right, you can be totally sober and still do some pretty crazy stuff.
It's true, not all erratic behavior is fueled by alcohol.
So where should people absolutely avoid using this kind of language?
Job interviews are definitely a no-go.
Yeah, telling your potential employer that you like to get turned on the weekends is probably not the best strategy.
Not unless you're applying to be a party planner, maybe.
Good point. And maybe not the best approach when meeting your partner's parents for the first time either.
Your dad seems pretty hammered. Might not go over well.
And definitely avoid using these terms when talking to law enforcement.
I'm just a little buzzed officer. It's not going to win you any points.
No, it's not the best way to get out of a ticket.
So the rule of thumb, if you wouldn't say it to your boss, probably best to avoid it altogether.
That's a good rule to live by. But what about those times when you want to be funny or descriptive without resorting to slang that might be considered vulgar or inappropriate?
Oh, yeah. The articles had some great creative alternatives for those situations.
Yeah, they did like the classic, I've had one too many.
It's understated, and everyone understands what you mean.
Or you could try, I'm seeing double tonight.
Hmm.
That one's a bit more playful. And I'm not quite at my best right now is a good diplomatic option.
It gets the point across without being too specific.
And as the article pointed out, the more creative you get, the funnier it usually is.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I'm currently riding the struggle bus.
That's a good one.
It perfectly captures that feeling of being slightly off kilter.
And I've achieved peak liquid confidence.
That's just brilliant.
It's self-aware and hilarious.
And one of the articles even challenged listeners to come up with their own drunk euphemisms.
I love it.
Like, I'm operating under the influence of poor decisions.
That's a good one.
It's witty and hints at the potential consequences.
It's all about playing with language.
So to wrap it all up, it's clear that English has this incredible inventiveness when it comes to describing being drunk.
It's a testament to our creativity.
And the sheer number of terms reflects this fascinating mix of history, culture, and humor.
It's a linguistic tapestry woven with alcohol.
I love that the real skill is understanding the nuances of these words and knowing your audience.
Knowing when to use hammered and when to stick with feeling good.
Exactly. So as you go about your week, remember to drink responsibly and maybe try to describe your state of inebriation with a little creative flair if the occasion arises.
Have fun with it.
And speaking of the fascinating world of language and its hidden meanings, for our next deep dive, we're going to be exploring the secret meanings of English emojis and how not to offend anyone, because that seemingly innocent winking face emoji might not always mean what you think.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing.
It is. Be sure to tune in for that one. All right. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the wonderful world of drunk vocabulary.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.